Hello, everyone. How are you? I hope everyone is doing well on this Friday. I wanted to come on today. I actually just completed a presentation for the New York Marriage and Family Therapy Network on collective trauma and collective healing from a systemic perspective. So I just wanted to come on to really talk a little bit about healing in community and how important that is and how absolutely essential that is. We are experiencing all types of collective trauma, right? Just thinking about and talking about the pandemic, right? That's something that worldwide, globally, every single person is experiencing. And we're experiencing that together. And we've been experiencing it for an extended, lengthy period of time. And so it's acknowledging that nobody's alone. We aren't alone, even though we may feel isolated, right? We may feel isolated. We may feel on our own. There's so much that we experience when it comes to trauma. And trauma being something that lives in the body, right? This book I highly recommend to everyone, My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem. I mentioned this in the presentation as well. And, it really talks about, racialized trauma, right? Another book is right here, It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wolin. And it's about how inherited family trauma shapes who we are and how to end that cycle. So when you talk about collective trauma, right, we can talk about the pandemic, the election, the economic situation. We can talk about, systemic racism, all of these different types of trauma. We can talk about intergenerational trauma that really gets passed down from generations before us, right? It's transmitted through the genes, right? And it's transmitted so we can have the conversation about nature versus nurture. Nature being the trauma is transmitted through the genes, and nurture is, having a mother or having a caregiver, even a father, who's gone through their own trauma. And then as a child, trying to connect with them and trying to develop that attachment. And so there's attachment trauma there. And then all throughout our lives, the different types of trauma that we face. Being a person of color and being anyone really as a part of a marginalized community, and particularly a Black person in this country, and dealing with the ongoing systemic racism. And if we talk about anybody in a marginalized community, the discrimination, right? The discrimination that you face, and the micro and macro aggressions, right? An example of a microaggression just being, entering into a restaurant or, grocery store and not being greeted in the way that, a white person would be greeted or focused on or paid attention to, and that just being a microaggression. And so all of these being, different types of collective trauma that we all go through and we all face. And we've got to understand trauma better as a community. Trauma isn't just something that happens and then it's in our mind and it's in our emotions. Trauma exists in the body. Trauma exists in the bodies. And so any trauma therapist that you work with, and myself being trauma informed and learning and teaching and being a trauma consultant, as much as I can. And I learn so much every day from so many trauma therapists and professionals, that talk therapy isn't enough. We've got to engage the body. And so a lot of the trauma work has to involve the body, whether that's through movement, exercise, yoga, qigong, whatever it is, the physical act of prayer, whatever it is that is physical, that is going to move the trauma from the body. Because just like Bessel van der Kolk, in his book, The Body Keeps the Score, it teaches us that the body remembers, right? There's trauma memories within the body. And so we've got to understand that the healing will require the body as well. And so I know I've gone into a lot about trauma, but really, how do we heal as a community? And it's recognizing that we aren't in this alone, that we're in this together, and the way that we will heal is in community. The way that we will heal is with each other, in relationships, in reaching out. And so in what ways can you help yourself stay connected to community? And definitely it's way more challenging now, right? It's way more challenging in the sense of not being able to be with our loved ones and being separated from people and being isolated from our friends and community. And so we've got to get creative. We got to find ways to connect, whether it's through social media or, picking up the phone and having a phone call. What are ways that you can connect and stay connected to your community? Because isolation and loneliness and trying to deal with everything on your own, it isn't fair. It isn't fair to you. It isn't fair to any of us to try to heal individually. Because again, we heal together and we heal in community. And so I just wanted to come on today to remind you and to remind me to take care of ourselves, to continue to work in therapy with a trained professional to heal our trauma, because this is collective trauma in so many ways. And so we do need to work with a professional to really help us with our healing, and then to never feel as if you are alone and as if you are dealing with all of this on your own. We are in community, and we've got to reach out and really be there for each other, show up for one another, and really heal in community. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining, and thank you for sharing in the chat. And I hope to stay connected to you all through community and through healing. And, enjoy your day. Bye and salam.